All right, so hey everyone, happy Friday. I'm going to roll the official intro in just a couple more minutes, but just thought I'd say hi. Um, Pedro
Hi
from
guys,
THORWallet is here. How's it going, man?
it's going well, thank you. Lots of things to discuss, but yeah, all good.
Yeah, the XZ crypto XZ handle. Where did that come from?
So that's an interesting story. So when I started the Twitter account, I think I started in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was a trend for crypto people to take like names from Greek things. So
Mm-hmm.
Aristotle's and I don't know, they were like all these Greek names that were for handles,
Mm-hmm.
Aurelius and Crypto Aurelius and things like that. And I remember that that was a bit like everyone was doing that, and I just thought, okay, I will take something simple and just took Crypto XC as kind of X factor, but really just wanting to not, be another copy of those guys who just wanted to pretend smart and have like, Mark Aurelius crypto or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just kind of kept it.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny. No one ever asked me about my thing, the desert lakes, but I
Yeah, how is that?
I used to live in Phoenix, and then I was trying to start a blog because I wanted to start writing, and I was looking for just something that would describe you know, just describe, someone from living in the desert or whatever. And there's an expression, a desert rat, and that's a little less serious, but also it was taken. There was already a blog called the Desert Rat, and so decided to go for, I don't know, a cat like desert lynx. The thing is, there's a domestic cat breed called the desert lynx, and so desertlynx.com was already taken, so I just changed it to the desert lynx, and there you go. It's still to this day. That was what, 13 or so years ago, and the name sort of stuck.
Yeah, it's interesting how these domains and also the ENS culture, like people go ballistic and you buy every single little thing you can imagine.
Yeah, it's especially interesting, um, because I think I might have the unstoppable domains version, but I'm really looking forward to when the Dash usernames come out in a few months. Again, we'll see, but just getting at the desert links, so you could just send anyone can send Dash to the desert lakes, and there you go, and there won't be a million impersonators, and you know that'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think this is great for user experience. By the way, we have integrated unstoppable domains on THORWallet. So when that is coming to Dash, then it will be automatically also on THORWallet. So kind of all the pieces fitting together nicely.
Yeah, and I have to say that will be an annoying thing because there have been like Dash has been talking about doing usernames since 2015, and only recently did anyone else do some kind of username type thing. And now there's a million different schemes. There's ENS, there's Unstoppable, FIO has their own foundation for inter wallet operability, and then Handcash, which was a Bitcoin Cash, and then BSV wallet has their own name. Then there's like Paynims. There's just so many different things,
Yeah,
and
even ordinals have now their sat names.
yeah, and at some point, like I think that for the next 5 years, maybe we will have to deal with a million different incompatible usernames and just let them fight it out until the weaker ones die out, and then we just use a couple.
Mhm.
So, as far as I know, the Dash ones, which again I don't like to talk too much about because they don't exist yet, they're not released on mainnet. But what might make that different is being able to, on the blockchain itself, add friends and contacts. so that when you put your seed into a new wallet or something, then your friends list is already there as well, and you have connections with all of them instead of just like a simple resolver. But anyway, that would be interesting. Let me
Yeah.
see how we got a bunch of people watching on Twitter, a few people on YouTube. Hey Oleg. All right, it's probably a good time to run the intro graphic and then get going. So, hey everyone, officially, welcome to the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 136. 136 weeks in a row and a little bit more. I've been doing this live show. Happy Friday. Hope you have a good one so far. I'm joined by the one and only Pedro from THORWallet, Crypto XC. How's it going, man?
Hi guys, happy to be here. Yeah, it's going well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. I definitely, there's, I'm sure, a lot of things going on in the crypto world today, but I saw THORChain really do well and Maya really do well. And I've been talking about both projects, THORChain, since 2021, I think, the ChaosNet days when I was using it. And then Maya since before. I mean, Alux was on my channel since before the project actually launched. And so I've been watching for a while and talking about it, and people just didn't pay attention. And now things are popping off, and I'm like, I can't wait, to do that. So, everyone, if you have my NFT, you can jump into the Digital Cash Rundown channel on my Discord and chat and leave super chats. Otherwise, YouTube has super chats. You can leave little super chats there, and I will put those up on the screen and stuff. Everyone else using the regular comments can just comment, and I may or may not answer those. All the ones you pay for, you do actually get an answer for. At some point, I would love to get actual like subscriber status on Twitter so that I could do a Twitter super chat as well. But we'll see. They're still waiting to see if I'm cool enough. But all right. So the first news story. Let's throw this up on the screen. The big news: THORChain. So THORChain weekly stats. Native asset vaults. Over 1,000 Bitcoin, over 11,000, or over 1,000 Bitcoin, over 11,000 Ethereum. Native assets pooled are 230 million about. But then the revenue part is where I think it's interesting. It's protocol revenue for this last week has been 1.1 million, which is pretty good. And then of course you have affiliates, which get a little bit of affiliate fee. THORSwap made 40K in revenue this last week, which is pretty nice. Asgard Dex, 2.9 thousand, and then THORWallet, here we go, 2.4 thousand. And so that's organic fees are 43.1% versus 56.9% for organic versus block rewards. We'll get into that on the second one, but yeah, that's a lot. 227,000 swaps for almost $500 million in volume for THORChain. So this has been pretty cool.
I think like there's really a lot to go through. Like you mentioned, many interesting topics. First of all, starting from like people have been talking about THORChain for several months or even like years. And a lot of things have been happening. In 2022 was kind of everyone get destroyed, but like the team really at THORChain has kept delivering, and as well many of the other ecosystem projects have just kind of put their working hats and just keep delivering and so on. And I think all of that is kind of coming now into pieces, and I think there are like two pivotal moments. So first is the release of savers. So for those that do not know, it's like LPs, but for one asset, so like single asset exposure. Like not exactly technically, but the way to understand it is like you want to pool but only have exposure to Bitcoin, for example. Normally you will have exposure to Bitcoin and Rune. So that was a big thing that had immediate market adoption. A lot of people were wanting to have this product because before you were always exposed, right? If you had Bitcoin or Ethereum, you wanted to be an LP, or you just wanted to have yield, but you didn't want to have the exposure of Rune. So that was a major part, and that was enabled And the second pivotal moment was recently, I would say 3 months ago or so, the introduction of streaming swaps. And streaming swap was, I think, the biggest feature that THORChain has built, because that kind of really made THORChain now competitive vis-a-vis any protocol out there. And now this is really showing up on the, you can see it on the CoinGecko updates and so on, like top 4, top 3 decks overall. And streaming swap, what it does is uh, just allows for large swaps to be executed because they get broken down into smaller swaps, which does enable arbitrageurs to come and provide good, rebalance the pool and then allow you to execute at good prices. So before, let's say you wanted to do a swap of 500K, then you basically would have massive slippage, and that played a huge role on the size of the pool. So the bigger the size of the pool, the smaller the slippage. But now the pool size are not, they haven't grown that much, but just the capital efficiency on those pools and on those like money on the LPs have gone a lot up, because um, just arbitrageurs come, take the profit, and then bring down the price, which then in turn has allowed people to start using THORChain way more. So it's kind of been like a little circle, like more swaps create more fees. These more fees go to LPs. More people get interested into LPs. And then the APRs, like if you go to THORWallet, those that do not have, we are one of the ecosystem projects, mobile and web app, and you can see there like the analytics, the APRs for LPs have just gone through the roof. Like even for like big assets like Bitcoin, over the last 30 days, we had like 250 something percent. Of course, LPs take risk, but it's just trying to explain like all this attention that has come and is coming because a lot of the activities happening, stable coins having like also huge yield, and then kind of everyone setting into the right place. You want to be an LP, you take more risk, you get paid more with the from the fees. You want to take lower risk, then savers get much lower yield but take way less risk, so they don't take any other side. So I think all of that coming up very nicely together. The numbers itself like speak for themselves. I'm not sure about the affiliate revenue. I think that's has been something to check, because we definitely have been doing very good over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Our numbers have spiked a lot. So, but in general, not just talking about THORWallet, I think the ecosystem is thriving, and people are very, I think, still very unaware. So, like, I just saw one post from chat from the guys of Bankless talking about THORChain. They don't know what it is. I think it's like, while it's still a big protocol, and people, and it's understandable because THORChain was, even like, let's say 6 7 weeks ago, we were at a token that was not even, I think, in the top 100, or it was close to the, in the last part of the 100 chart, and it had just gone up, 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 and a huge massive upside has happened, and now we're in the top 50 as a rune itself. So I think that kind of explains a bit what has happened, and we're very excited to see that.
Yeah, for sure. It's been very kind of funny to see the whole Bankless thing. Maybe I'll actually open up that little tweet and just go on that next. But the two things you mentioned about the savers and streaming swaps for regular people who aren't into like DeFi and stuff like that. Basically, what that means is any coin can do native staking, kind of, with THORChain's help, thanks to savers. Where if you have Litecoin, you could put in Litecoin and then get the same amount of Litecoin out later, plus a certain percentage on top of that. So it's like a savings account for any crypto in the crypto. And this is especially big because Bitcoin people, a lot of times they tend to want to only have Bitcoin. They don't want to gamble on shit coins or whatever they say. And so, and also a lot of people who even aren't maximalists, they're open to using other chains. They've just seen the historical price performance of all assets over a long period of time. And with crypto assets, basically only Bitcoin and Ethereum have been like reliable as far as doing well. And so they might be a little bit more risk averse and then they just want to earn. But so, or there might just be new people who are just new to Bitcoin and they just say, I want to store Bitcoin up. And that's all they want to do. And then, oh, you can earn interest on this rather than giving to like, but then they put some on like FTX or Voyager or something and it goes, explodes. And they're like, oh, that's no good. But they still want to earn. So it just allows them to do that without saying, hey, why is my Bitcoin worth less today? Because, oh, LP slippage, like they have no idea about that. And then the streaming swaps basically just means that if you're willing, if you don't need a swap to be finished right away, it can be a lot cheaper. And so that was the big thing is people are like, oh, I want to use this thing. And then they're like, it's more than Coinbase. I'll use Coinbase. They don't understand or care about the decentralized this or that. But then now it's like, oh, it's cheaper than Coinbase. And all of a sudden, a ton of volume just comes over. And I think it's been very, very, it's like that's the selling point that has gotten people to want to do something differently.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit refreshing to see like cool stuff being built because the promise of THORChain has existed for a long time, but it has taken a bit of time to kind of really come to fruition. Because as you say, like end users, like there's obviously a niche of people who are like maxis, are like decentralization maxis, but many people don't care. And we as a wallet, like we face with a lot of people who are more in like the either noobs or like not extremely crazy crypto. They just have their crypto. They want to have some yield. And over the last cycle, we saw like people paid, really peanuts for their Bitcoin and taking over massive risk in terms of third-party risk. And I think that was a kind of a bit of a lesson learned, even though those that have been in the ecosystem for a longer time do know that, but those that came in the last cycle kind of learn it sadly on a bad way. But I think that is really interesting, like people keeping custody on their own, knowing that like, yeah, exactly, that's the best way to describe it, like a savings account. We consider it as that. And that's more on the DeFi part, but I think also from like we're trying to build something like our vision has always been super clear, which is that we just want to make an app that brings all the financial services but based on DeFi. So for a person that just needs USDT and they want to have some yield on that, but they don't want to deal with other things and they still want to put 1,000 in and take out 1,000 plus something. I think that's pretty interesting. So, and now that there's more chains, there's also flexibility for not only ERC20s on Ethereum that are massively expensive. Now you have stables in Binance Smart Chain or in AVAX, so people have the option to get that. But and just the last point, also one very interesting part is like kind of bringing DeFi to projects that were not really into DeFi, like Litecoin or even Doge. Getting, and I think even in the Doge community, it's not so well known, but you can get some yield on your Doge, take no other asset exposure. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good point about expanding reach to other communities because, for example, I had very little interest in DeFi in the past because I just care about spending crypto, using it as money. And then when there was projects like Dash that give you some yield on that too, it's like, well, I can participate in that or something, and that's it. And when DeFi came around, it was mostly an Ethereum thing. And so I didn't, and this was before Ethereum had like staking for Ethereum itself, native staking. And so for everything else, I was just like, well, why do I want to use this weird service to swap amongst all these different Ethereum tokens, none of which I'm using, none of which are useful to me, and earn yield on this to like that whole leveraged yield kind of DeFi boom era. I just did not care. But it wasn't until I heard about THORChain that I'm like, oh, this makes sense to me because I do sometimes use Bitcoin. I do sometimes use Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and Avalanche and all. Like now it makes sense to me now it actually is useful to me because these are all useful tokens outside of the DeFi context that now I can get DeFi services on. And I think that it's the same thing. Like, for example, it's kind of funny you mentioned the Bankless people, because the Bankless podcast, which by the way, I have nothing specifically wrong with them, but I've been like fighting with them on Twitter for a long time because they're the opposite of Bankless, and I kind of give them a lot of trouble about that. And but anyway, they, as you mentioned, I'm just gonna put that tweet on the screen from Chad. Basically, he says, he puts a little thing from the little excerpt from the Bankless podcast. Says, "Hey, Bankless, says, I heard you don't know much about THORChain or Rune. It's a DEX that works cross-chain. It's pumping right now because it's now the fourth largest DEX by volume over the last week, getting close to surpassing Curve. Its volume has exploded because it has better price execution than every other centralized exchange or decentralized exchange. Yes, all of them. Due to the new highly capital efficient, blah, blah, blah." And so basically, a lot of the space, I think, is sort of sleeping on the greater THORChain ecosystem, especially because like the whole Ethereum world is just, that's all they care about is Ethereum. Kind of like the Bitcoin world, all they care about is Bitcoin. And now there's something else that's coming up and doing cool, innovative things, and it's kind of outside of their frame of reference to think, oh, there's a new project that's not just experimenting down at like the third page of CoinMarketCap somewhere. Like there's some actual other project that's doing real numbers. That's not just Ethereum or a bad Ethereum clone like Solana. Again, I'm not saying my opinions. I'm saying like that perspective. So it's kind of interesting to see that like people are now blown away. They're like, oh, this thing exists.
Yeah, I think like it has always amazed me, and sometimes, of course, I love crypto Twitter. It's hilarious, but people live in their own silos. Like if you're a Bitcoin maxi or you're an Ethereum maxi, and they just don't see anything beyond that. I believe that there is like a space for everyone. Just build and build cool stuff and let people use it. And if somebody else wants to use this or that protocol, I think they are free to do that. And people get a bit too esoterical with that. Just, oh no, Bitcoin can never use Ethereum, or who knows what is going to be the right tool. Like that, they're like, even for example, Bitcoin, it's very interesting. Like Bitcoiners never care about THORChain because it's some shitcoin out there. But to use THORChain, you don't need Rune. So that's kind of the cool part. And where then that comes to the question why people are not so looking into. But I think sadly in crypto, many times marketing is just, coin goes up, then that's when a lot of attention comes. But I think the core team from THORChain has been very smart on, building a product that works, that people need. And now the attention is coming, then you have a product that people is like, oh, that's very cool and exciting. But I think it's still quite under the radar. I would like to see more from everyone, from the ETH guys, from the BTC guys, and just come try it out. And I think there's even like cool stuff that are potential to build. Like, like I was reading another tweet from, I don't remember who posted it, but having Ethereum and, just like the grappling mechanism. So there's like the ETH, WBTC. So like this connection, WBTC and Bitcoin, that's like a huge thing for a decentralized, like you could connect Bitcoin now to DeFi, but just beyond the savers, you can also, so you have your WBTC. Then I wanted to bring to have it to the real Bitcoin, but not bridge it. So you just use THORChain. So that's pretty interesting, and I think there's a lot of potential there as well.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like the cross-chain interoperability kind of makes things a lot cooler. And the interesting part about all those things is it adds value and functionality to a chain that doesn't otherwise have it, and in the most native way possible. So, I mean, obviously, if you're earning Bitcoin, you don't have Bitcoin in your wallet. It's in the pool, the liquidity pool, earning from savers, which I get some people don't trust necessarily as much as self custody and a hardware wallet, but and there probably is a little bit of a security trade off, but it's still pretty good, and it just kind of lends and expands that functionality. And so now let's get to the the Maya stuff, because that's also been pretty interesting. So here we go. The Maya protocol says today's swaps alone, that was it yesterday, contributed to an impressive 5.5 million in volume. And it's kind of interesting because compared to THORChain, which then compared to the rest of the DeFi ecosystem is extremely small still, but Maya came into existence very recently, just a few months ago, and as a small, no VC money, no, just a very small kind of community chain that basically at its start was like I guess like a less advanced version of THORChain with like out the users and volume and everything else. And so started from a really disadvantaged sort of position, but then started to grow, of course, adding Dash as the first chain that's not on THORChain. But then now with Kujira, I think that's where it's really started to take off, because Kuji, I don't know very much about Kuji at all, I'll admit, but it seems to be a lot more aligned with the DeFi ecosystem than Dash is kind of like one of the old school coins before they invented DeFi or whatever. And so, but all this together, it's kind of interesting. So let's switch back to the THORChain slide for just a second, because if you see under like the protocol revenue or whatever, it says organic fees versus block rewards is 43.1% versus 56.9%. So THORChain still had the luxury of running on inflation, which
Correct.
which is basically investor money, or people who bought Rune, their supply is getting diluted, and that's where it goes. And which is how Bitcoin works still for the most part. How just about every single crypto works is, in the beginning at least, it's a lot of inflation. And so that makes it even harder for Maya, I think, because Maya started out with, no inflation, basically just gave cacao to everyone, and then to everyone who participated in the liquidity auction, and then everything is fees. Everything is pure fees. So everyone who's sticking around to receive liquidity, to provide liquidity, to run nodes, all that stuff, they're all doing that purely based on what can be earned from swap fees. And if that isn't good enough, they're going to be gone. But apparently it is, and it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, we are very happy. Yesterday was a great day for the guys in Maya, and we were super happy for them. And we were a true believer from day one. We obviously were a key player for them to do the liquidity auction, with THORWallet being one of the main places where people were able to participate. And since the Maya model was introduced, I was initially thinking that many other will kind of follow suit and do the same type of liquidity auction. We haven't seen any, but I do think we will see some, because it is an interesting aspect, which is I think evolution has happened. It's a bit of Darwinism there. Like, we're having first the ICOs, give me your money, I promise you nothing, buy a lot of money wiped out.
Of
Then
course.
we moved then to, okay, that's too bad, let's have a better system. And then we had like the LP system, or like we create a pool, and then people come to the pool. There was a bit less risk, people can still go out of the pool, but there's still some rocks that happen. And I think this new system, which is kind of interesting, because you gave your Bitcoin, but you didn't buy anything. It was just kind of like, we need this liquidity to kind of enable and power the system. And actually they were also smart in kind of breaking it down into different risk levels. So if you wanted to really believe, then you have a higher payout, you had to stay longer. And if you wanted a quick buck, then there was like a 30 days and thank you. So basically you gave one Bitcoin, and then they gave like 90% of all the cacao went to all the money that was collected. And then basically everyone got their free cacao, so to speak. But 90% of the supply went to the LPs, and then 10% stayed for impermanent loss protection. So, and basically what it is interesting is this dual system of coins, right? Because like you have cacao, which is kind of the equivalent of Rune, but then 10% of those fees get collected by Maya. So the team actually had no cacao, no investor had cacao. So basically, everyone who came really believed that swaps could happen in the future, and the team will only get paid if volume comes into the chain, right? Because all their upside is in Maya, and Maya only makes money when cacao fees are created. So I think that is a very strong alignment. Of course, it's a much harder starting point, right? Because you start with nothing to distribute. Um, and the other part, which is interesting, was that they made some changes on the bonding part. So like you could bond LPs, and I think that's also uh, still think it's something that people will experiment, but definitely cool to see people trying other ideas, because we don't know what's going to work. I mean, THORChain is working very nicely, but we don't know if some tweaks here and that could also be attractive for other segment. And yeah, doing very well, very well. Yesterday, I think was the first big day with the 5 million trading volume. And I think there's been a couple of things. So for Maya, also like some key pivotal moments. Of course, the LA raising whatever they had, 15 million or something. So that was more than most people expected because of the time, the bear market. So key point number one. I think key point number two was Dash, because until then they just had, THORChain fork, had tokens that were already supported by THORChain, but bringing Dash, that's a different level of complexity because you need to integrate a new chain into, like, it's just a completely different skill set. So that was second. And I think the third was very important, just happened, which was the tier one unlock. So a lot of people had some questions on what will happen after the tier one basically was like the most convicted, like the guys who had the most conviction had to wait 200 days until they could remove their liquidity. And that just happened like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And there was a bit of thought and, well, I wouldn't say thought, but expectation on what would happen there.
Yeah.
And that's gone. So I think now that that's off the table, people said, okay, THORChain is doing very well. Streaming swaps are coming to Maya. New chains are there. As you say, Dash and the Kuji guys have been like very, very active. I think the pool is almost a 1 million now. So yeah, overall, kind of the pieces also falling up in the right place and people starting to think, I mean, just from an investor point, of course, no financial advice, but like it's just so much smaller, right, than THORChain, but similar tech. So most people will think, okay, might be a good opportunity.
Yes, I think it's especially I think the tokenomics are stronger. Like obviously I'm a big fan of THORChain, but I think that Maya, and obviously time will tell if this is different, but I think it's a better structure. So with THORChain, I think that a lot of these things were necessary because THORChain is I think one of the most innovative projects in crypto, and innovative means a ton of work has to be done, right? It's innovation is expensive, and so like for example, I'm a big fan of Zcash as well, and Zcash has thrown a lot of money into developing basically state of the art zero knowledge proof, inventions where like the Halo
Mhm.
proving mechanism is kind of move the state of the art of cryptography forward, and like but that's a lot of very high talented developer, and money, of course. And so THORChain, not quite as like lean as Maya, of course, but I think you might have needed that to just start something so crazy, so different. Whereas Maya has the benefit of that, but the Maya tokenomics, I know a lot of people who bought Rune because they liked THORChain at the market top, and then the Rune price went really down, really far down, and a lot of people who were providing liquidity struggled during that time because they're like, I'm providing liquidity, and it's a high APY kind of thing. Why does my profitability keep on going down? And then it just becomes like, I remember there was a moment when a lot of the THORChain community was very like disillusioned a little bit, kind of because of that. And obviously, the cacao will go up and down over time. I'm not expecting it to just keep on going up forever, but I think it has a lot less of the ability to go down because there isn't that inflation. Because it's not like all the holders get all the cacao, and it's not like there's no inflation adding that pressure. And then also, you don't need just so much money in the protocol to make it run, like with THORChain, because you have to have fully rune bonded nodes, whereas the LP bonding makes it more efficient. And I really also like the Maya token, as I've talked about before. I feel like it's not only good because it's another way of like revenue sharing, but also it takes away that speculative. It kind of takes a lot of that speculative juice away from the native token, the worker token, and takes it to a different class. And so I did this thread. Let me put that up for just briefly. I'm not going to read it, of course, but I did this thread on Maya recently about basically, what the 47,500 in fee revenue, which I'm think is over, it's like 55,000 is what it ended up being. But yeah, it passed Polygon and some of the other top L2s for some of the top networks for the day, which is pretty crazy. And especially considering that that's like all fees. And the thing that I like the most, and I kind of mentioned it in this thread here, about the no fee model is the pressure. It is the negative. I like the negative part. The fact that there's no room for error as far as you're going to lose your money fast if it doesn't work out. And as I mentioned, I seen like Alux and other people, I just seen like the stress and the pressure in their faces, like making this happen despite the big smiles. I could see through that it's like, we need to make this work. Otherwise we're going to lose everything. And I really think that's why the free market systems lift so many people out of poverty all over the world, is because it rewards people for doing good things, but also has that pressure of, I can't just sit and just exist. If I don't move, it's like in nature, I have to work hard so I don't starve to death. And it's that same mentality, I think, has really made Maya go from like just a nothing, like a non-existent project that doesn't even have a chain, into I would say one of the most profitable as far as like raw fee revenue networks in all of crypto in just a couple months. And I think the pressure has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, definitely, like the question is, where is the balance, right? Because one of the cool innovations on crypto was like, you can get like big money and then you can aim for the stars, right? Like, let's build something cool. Would you be able to build like CK proofs or stuff like that with like very small amount of capital? That's questionable. But then that kind of plays for the other side, which is like, you have the people who then raise too much and then don't know what to do. You have the money, but you have no product, and then you have to deliver. I do think that one of the questions, and it's kind of a negative part on DeFi, is that with the whole DeFi and the yield craze that happened, capital became a bit too, they just move to wherever the highest yield was there. So, and of course that's like a normal thing to do in a capitalistic system, but that also made create some weird incentives for people to kind of just hunt for the yield, which made it harder for protocols, because at the end of the day, most or every single DeFi project is based off of having liquidity to provide the service. So if you don't have enough liquidity to provide your service, then your service is basically dead. So one of the challenges that were there when Maya was starting was like, you do need to attract enough liquidity to come in. And as to your point, there was no, inflation or free token that they were going to give you to provide that liquidity beyond the liquidity auction. That was like a, one-off starts. But then after that, you still want to have more people bringing more liquidity so you can provide more swaps. And those people basically get no rewards at all. Besides the fees, right? The fees are the ones that are bringing that. So what my conclusion from this is just like, these guys are kind of taking big bets on Maya, right? Because Maya has also to run a node on Maya is not as expensive as THORChain, but it's definitely expensive because you're running at that like a full Bitcoin node, a full Ethereum node, like a full Dash, Kuji. So like it is expensive, and like people are just taking the bet on the volume is gonna come, they're gonna be paid on the fees, and this is gonna be profitable. And the other second point was like this 5 point something million volume day that happened. This was before two big things that they're bringing. So one of them is savers for THORChain, and all the other savers for Dash and so on. And the second thing is streaming swaps. So, and I think streaming swap is really what unlocks the next move, because once you have like super cheap swaps, like I think it aligns very good the incentives. Like if you want to ape, then you're gonna pay high slippage. Do it. Be my guest and a haircut with the fees. But most people who are like, okay, I can wait 2 3 hours, or I can wait 6 hours, whatever, and then get a good price execution, then that's gonna be like a big factor. So now you will have that. Streaming starts coming to Maya, and I do really think that that's going to bring the volume to a much bigger level. So very, very excited to see that. And I think there's other chains coming in, big activity chains as well, like Arbitrum. So that's going to, if THORChain is kind of, under the radar, Maya is, you know, as niche as can be right now. But I think that's also very good to see that even though it's a niche for this kind of cross-chain ecosystem, is doing pretty well still. So that's very nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you have like pass-through data coming so that you could do a swap across the two chains, across THORChain and Maya with one go. The thing that I think is interesting about the entire ecosystem, well, first to just finish on the Maya like no inflation kind of thing, I do think that was it was a little insane, like the time frame of everything, and I think that in the future, if other projects use this model, it'd be very difficult to succeed under that short time frame. Probably it would make more sense to do like the lockup periods up to 1 to 5 years for like the biggest ones maybe, and just something like that, so it's not as like if the Maya team hadn't worked so hard right away. I think that because we did see in the tier 1 unlock there was a dip. You did see people dump very little, relative to everything. It was very little, but it was a little bit of a dump. If they had worked just a little bit not as hard, it could have been a huge dump, which could have caused a cascade and it could have destroyed the whole protocol. So it's a very risky move. But I think that what we haven't yet seen is, first of all, there's a lot of applications of swapping. So, for example, the Dash ecosystem is very much outside of the whole DeFi thing. It's just, pay for stuff. And so the integration into the Dash wallet, which is a wallet which supports OneCoin and mostly just lets you receive and send, and is adding some privacy features and other things like that. But they're integrating Maya, but as a receive and as a send to other non-supported coins. But still, it's a OneCoin wallet. And so because of that, it's a completely different kind of user where someone might just say, hey, pay me, all I got is, say Bitcoin. Sure, I'll take it. And then they receive it as Dash. It's not a trader at all or a DeFi person. And the same thing of like, here, I'll pay you. Oh, I only take Bitcoin. Well, fine, here, I'll send you the Dash through the Maya thingy and there we go, it just goes. And obviously streaming swaps help a lot for price execution on some of that. But I think we'll see a lot more of those kinds of applications. But also, I think what we haven't yet seen is major exchanges start to turn their infrastructure into just THORChain and Maya, which I think we're starting to see. I mean, as I've mentioned before, THORWallet is a good example of what I would see like an exchange of the future being, which is just a nice front end with on ramps and off ramps that uses a decentralized protocol for all the trading. And I think that we see with Coinbase is already doing all this stuff on Base. They've made their own, centralized chain or whatever. I don't know if that's going anywhere really, but the thought is very accurate. Where let's try to remove counterparty risk and hack risk and all this other stuff. Let's try to remove that from our trading thing. And like
Yeah.
all it takes is let's just say Binance. Well, maybe let's just go lower. Let's say Kraken. Let's say just Kraken decides to get rid of all their exchange stuff except for fiat onboarding and off and selling, and just the trading segment. They just go on top of THORChain, Maya, Uniswap, all the different DEX. They just become like a DEX aggregator service in the back end. They don't tell anyone necessarily, other than maybe some email that the customers never read. But other than that, they don't really tell anyone. It just moves, and all of a sudden, THORChain, Maya volume goes through the roof even more. And then people
Yeah.
are like, "What happened? I didn't hear about this coin. It was only top 50."
I think you're very right, but like that's like three levels. I think the first
Mm-hmm.
level is gonna be like once Ledger integration comes in, like we will see a massive unlock of volume. Like people who want to trade big quantities. I mean, still kind of enabled now on THORChain, but it's still like not open for newbies. You have to go developer mode. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna do that. Like only if you're like a hardcore user. So once Ledger is kind of enabling that for THORChain and Maya on a simple way, that's gonna unlock a lot. We are working on having Ledger integrated to the mobile wallet. So that's gonna be like our vision is because we have multi-wallet right on THORWallet, and our vision is you have your, let's say, wallet one where you have your Thor card, and then
Mm-hmm.
there you don't have a lot of money. You have your 100 200 bucks to pay your coffee here and there. Then you have like your wallet number two, which is the one that's connected to Ledger, but that the means that is on the go, it's not at risk because you always need the physical device, right, to execute and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So like you can say, oh, now I want to move some of my capital from Ledger to some transaction. I have my phone, I have my Ledger on, and then boom, done. And then you can have like a third wallet, which is your like degen crazy, whatever. I'm gonna buy this new token. So that is what we're kind of trying to, or where we aiming. And back to your point, I think we are seeing like Coinbase, as you said, with their own chain, Binance as well with their OP, BNB, and I think they are just. I think Uniswap caught everyone. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I wouldn't say with their pants down because they're making a lot of money, but like it was just like really, like very everyone got impressed on how much market adoption this got, and how powerful it can be to really have a DEX, and that kind of coupled to what happened with the fallout of FTX, then people starting to say, shit, I have like how am I going to have big amounts of money on a DEX, and what happens if I move my money there and something happens? Then like the counterparty risk came to another level of awareness. So where now you can say, okay, now we execute something for you, but still keeping the whole interchange of asset on a decentralized way. And I think the decentralization aspect is very important, but what is more important is the IOU is way more important. So like on centralized exchanges, or mostly everyone, it's just their database, right? So you don't, or it's very hard to know, and that's why they're going into all these proof of reserves and everything. But it was very difficult to know even with FTX if they say they have whatever 10,000 bitcoins, do they really have these 10,000 bitcoins, right? Like, it was just one number in their database, number goes up, click, click, click. So and I think that is something that is very important because when you do a cross chain swap using a DEX, you know that the money is there. Like you before the swap itself, you can go literally and say, okay, this pool has 2 million or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So your risk exposure changes from like, oh, I execute this in 1 hour, but you still have full visibility onto like kind of a full accounting on what's the status of the network. So I think what you're saying will happen. Some exchanges will, put their feet in there and say, and it makes sense, right? Like for big swaps, how are you going to be dealing with Bitcoin to Ethereum huge swaps? You're going to start to kind of do some of that activity through a DEX to diversify as well your risk. I think so. I see it definitely will happen.
Yeah, and like everything, it's all money talks. And the one thing that going back to that original THORChain graphic of all the statistics, there's a lot of affiliate revenue where it's one of those genius things that I think a lot of people in crypto might be averse to because they're in crypto to avoid middlemen and they think, oh, it's the same as the old banking system, million people involved. But it's actually like a genius thing because there's always going to be businesses built on everything. And to just have a protocol level thing where every swap that goes across this decentralized protocol can still benefit a specific front end, even though you can use it yourself, like without using a front end, technically. Right? If you figure it out yourself, you could do that. But I think that what that will do is you have something like Binance, let's just say, and then they have a lot of like FUD flying around about, oh, they're insolvent, proof of exchange, oh, they're manipulating, like all this kind of stuff, and that costs them money because they lose customers. They have to hire people to do audits. They have to do compliance things. They have to do all these kinds of things, and it becomes very expensive. And all the security they have to do, and funds are the SAFU fund. They have to do all this kind of stuff, and that costs a lot of money. And then they can see, well, we make this. These are our costs. If we migrate to purely being like a DEX front end, these are the affiliate fees we can get from THORChain and Maya and stuff. So then they can make the revenue calculation. Okay, we make this much, probably less than we were making before in gross revenue. But then there's all these costs we get to cut out because we don't have to do this, we don't have to do that, all this kind of other stuff. And then at some point, that prospect of the flippening is going to happen. Where at some point, if we just use this, it's going to benefit us more than it will lose us. And then at that point, they don't have to care about decentralization. They'll just switch because it pays them more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, let's wrap up with talking about the new THORWallet thing, which I just put up on the screen the announcement, the big mobile update now live in test flight in Android. Lots of improvements, revamped wallet screen, new affiliate fee structure, improved action bar, Kuji gas fixes, USK send fixes, LP fixes, blah blah blah, and dash send fixes, which I know some people were having some issues because of hitting the send to max button and stuff, and so hopefully like all that's taken care of. So why don't you just explain what this whole thing is?
Yeah, sure. So we just released a new update for test flight and Android. So if you were having some issues, please go ahead and update. And this is kind of one of the updates that we will do, and we're going to be kind of rolling out several updates through the course of the next few days, because what we are focusing a lot is on, like, we have added a lot of functionality over the year, but we are also growing at a very fast pace, and it has kind of into a conflict where some users started to see the user experience getting lower or than they expected. So we have started to focus a lot on reliability, speed, and one of the big changes is, like, and people will see that this on the wallet screen. On the wallet screen, we have a lot of things going on. We have kind of cut down a lot of the let's say, quote unquote, noise to just simplify wallet screen, much more responsive. And this also plays into, we were getting a lot of contacts from people using Android that the app was becoming more heavy, more resource intensive, and that all played a role. Like, when one of the challenges of building a decentralized app is that data comes from everywhere, so it's not like a single database. And how do you improve, how do you bring latency to that? And when you load all these tokens, then those took resources. So we're kind of streamlining that. That's a huge change. We also changed the action bar, so kind of having more prominent the wallet connect. People sometimes couldn't find it. Oh, where can I use this? So wallet connect right there on the front. Um, and the other thing is just fixes, on um, first of all, the Kuji. So there were some issues with the gas. Gas management is on a multi or a cross chain world is kind of a bit of a pain in the ass because every chain has its own thing. Things change here and there. So that's something that we are constantly working on. So there were some issues with people having or paying higher gas fees for Kuji. That's fixed. But Maya just integrate USK, so we just kind of uh, clear all the bugs, so people who want to LP into Kuji or USK now can do it. And you also reported some issues with Dash as well. So that was related, as you said, with the max button. Um, that is mostly fixed. If there's some, like, sometimes fees go a bit higher. The thing is that Dash is very cheap, right? So like for transactions, but still, like, if you have a bit, what's happening with the max button, and this is kind of a pain in the ass when we're thinking how to improve the experience, is the max button is a trade-off between leaving dust, leaving the less dust possible, but on the other hand, ensuring that the transaction goes through. On chains like Dash, this is kind of a smaller concern because you pay nothing, or like the gas fees are very small. But on Bitcoin and Ethereum, this is a massive concern, right? Like, do you pay gas fees and then your transaction doesn't go through, and then you burn the money? So this is something that requires constant work. But yeah, the Dash should work now. And if people still have some issue, it's just easy to just remove 3-4 decimals and it should work. It's just like trying to use all the possible uh, asset that you have. Then there might be like a little bit of a gas issue and then it doesn't allow you. But if you just remove some decimals, it should work. Dash, like, remove 3 decimals and then it works. And the other big thing is improve affiliate fee. We're gonna put, as I said there in the post, another more in detail broken down. But basically, we have 3 tiers. So if you have either our THORWallet coin, which is TGT, or if you have an NFT, we provide rebates on the fee. So you have lower fees on swaps, LPs, everything, card. Um, but what we're doing now, the introduction of streaming swaps, as I said, changes things a bit. So now what we're doing is having a more nuanced approach for, like, $0 to $50,000, 50,000 to 500K, and more than 500K. So there's going to be a bit of a discount on volume, but still having their own, like, segment of, let's say, high fees, which is like you don't have TGT, medium fees, or very low fees if you have more TGT. Most of our users are kind of in the middle ground, which they are like the average they're paying is around 0.3, which is very competitive. But people see the high tier and they say, oh, why are we paying so much? Which I think is a bit ironic because people do want, we put a post, I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, about everything that has been accomplished. And this was kind of a recap on small summary, but it was just like a lot of things, lot of new features. And we want a good app, and that costs money. We have to pay salaries and so on. But I understand people don't want to pay fees, but at the same time, kind of a necessary evil, because you need to build a sustainable business model. You don't want to have, you know because I do believe incentives matter, right? If you don't have a
Absolutely.
sustainable business model, then your incentive is to rob people or to create something which is like a scam and go. But what we are really trying to build is like an app that people can use, like so to call it Revolut for DeFi, and that has to be coming with the cost of, you want to use it. It's free, download it, keep your assets, whatever. But we need to make some money there, and we are also bringing this nuance to say, okay, you are a large trader, you're going to have lower fees. So that is all coming into this new update. So Yeah, we're very much looking forward to the feedback from the community. I know also the guys from Dash have been very active in providing feedback, and we are super happy to uh, to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great wallet, and we're just the max send thing is kind of funny because I've had a lot of issues with max send over many years of using mostly THORChain interfaces, but obviously with Maya as well right now, and just because of the dust thing, right? And it makes perfect sense because and this is something that I do believe will have to absolutely change in all crypto in the future, is just this weird fee uncertainty problem. Now, as you mentioned, the Dash thing doesn't matter as much because not only does Dash have low fees, but also the the amount of fee you spend in Dash makes almost no difference as far as like transaction finality on the actual chain itself, right? Because if you spend any fee, it'll be locked in and confirmed instantly. The slight nuance of difference, I guess, is with Maya. From what I hear, the Maya looks at blocks and not mempools and things like that, and so it would have to have a confirmation to count, which is why even though Dash transactions are final instantly, the chain lock, the first confirmation kind of matters.
Mhm.
But for I can't really imagine a situation where there's much variance in the future for Dash specifically of how long does of the fee versus that. And it just I think that a lot of DeFi like tokens and things like I think that I don't think this is going to be the case long term in crypto because people won't put up with it. I just think it's kind of like a thing with Bitcoin and Ethereum today where you just have to like you don't know if you're paying enough for it to even execute and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
as far as the wallet, so typically when I advocate for people to use the Edge wallet because it's been around a long time. It's a very good wallet, has a lot of coins, all this kind of stuff, and it does have like THORChain in the back end for some swaps. And recently, a couple times I've been telling people they should get THORWallet instead because it's a little more streamlined and accesses some of these extra features that are good. And it just mostly when you hear people complaining about stuff is because of those are people I told you should use THORWallet instead, and they're okay. So then they switch, and then there's still some issues. But then once those are solved, it's something I'd like to be able to tell people if they want to live all off of crypto. It's just like just start with THORWallet, and then you can just do all your stuff from there, and then just get like for example a Dash wallet to do like regular spending as like your little cash wallet, and then start them off like that. And I think we're very close to being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for those that are in Europe, it's going to be a very nice cycle because, as you say, you have your Dash, you want to spend it. Like, I think a lot of the problem in crypto right now is like, yeah, some people accept crypto, but like that bridge to the real world will have to happen. And now, let's say when Maya integrates Arbitrum, which is going to be in the next few months, what will basically be possible is you have your Dash, you want to pay whatever you want to pay, your McDonald's burger, then you can just send $20 of Dash, swap it to USDC, and instantly top up your card and pay on the go instantly. So like all the process, in 2 or 3 minutes, whatever that takes for the confirmation. But the thing is, once you have this USDC and you charge it on the card, you can spend like in that instant, and that's like super cool. And I think that's gonna be like a nice way for users to bring more real life activity because it's a real card, Visa card, so you can pay whatever you want. So that's you live on the crypto world, you pay with crypto, but you need sometimes to pay something that you can pay. And yeah, thanks for the shout out for the users on downloading THORWallet. We are definitely trying to improve. We're wanting to hear all the feedback and just we're actually seeing massive growth. Well, what our goal now in the next few months is to be having 100,000 downloads. We recently reached the 55,000, so it's been a long journey from where we started now to 55,000 downloads. But I think the other part is not only the downloads, is the active users. We have seen like over the last 6 weeks, and of course highly, like a big part of that is driven because of Bitcoin going up and everything, but like the number of active users on the wallet has just constantly been going up on a daily basis. And it just make us happy to see that, but also kind of raises a bit the bar on, we need to improve on, people don't care, decentralization, this decentralization, whatever. They just come, it doesn't work, this, and then some people get discouraged. So yeah, we're working to kind of iron those things out, but we're also excited to kind of connect all pieces together. Lending that came from THORChain, Maya, like all of these kind of interacting pieces coming into place into one. And just, we have customers everywhere, right? So like, and that's just, for us, makes us very happy to say we can provide a service for someone that we don't know who they are. We save no data, but they can decentralized swap for Bitcoin and gain back some of their freedom. So even though that's a bit too idealistic, I do think
Hmm.
it's a massive tool that is sometimes kind of underplayed for first world countries, where it's like, oh, nobody cares about that. No, it does play a big role.
Yeah, and the one thing that I personally have not used, but would I really think is cool is the whole Thor Cash thing of being able to on ramp without KYC, which is in my opinion, obviously I don't like KYC for like idealistic reasons and things, but I also really don't like it for new user onboarding things because it's for me it's very easy to get someone to download a crypto wallet and then I send them some and they can use it. It's just so easy. And the problem is if they want to start playing around with it, then they're like, well, how do I buy some? And then they like, okay, I'll go to the Coinbase and sign up, and then you got to have the picture with your ID and all this stuff, and then wait for it's just so bad for like if someone's gonna do this for their lifestyle, they will do it, but just a new user experience is so bad, and so being very just being able to just I'm gonna buy like $200 worth with a credit card right away, and then I get to play. I get to put it in here. Oh look, the thing went up. Oh, the staking went up. I swapped it for this coin. I spent it at this. Okay, cool. And then they get it, and then eventually, if they have to KYC to buy more, that's okay. It's so that's kind of the something that I think is really it's a cool kind of feature of this whole thing.
Yeah, we are. I mean, that when we were thinking about what are the key, because we see things of how do we reduce friction for the wallet, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
one is downloading the app is friction number one, right? Not everyone like sees an app, they want to download it, but it's the cost for this is almost zero. So you have the app, but then a lot of people have no crypto. So how do you get crypto, as you said? And for small amounts, like, I mean, honestly, this is a very complicated topic because governments are cracking hard on KYC, but this is I think this is something where technology really is the solution. Like we need to have a solution that is knowledge zero knowledge proof based, because we have seen like the government and everyone like they're just not capable of keeping this KYC data secure, and forcing people to do KYC is like killing a mosquito with a bazooka. Like the downside is so big.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it with, I don't know, I think it was, I don't know if it was Voyager or Celsius, but one of the big companies got go bankrupt. Then their data was sold, and then the data was leaked and so on. So KYC is definitely a big issue, and for user adoption, number one, right? And for other thing is like how for limiting the expansion of crypto as well. Like you want to control it, like, oh, how do I buy with my euros? Okay, let's make it the hardest possible for people to scare them off of these weird tokens or whatever. So we do need to make some improvements in that area. And of course, right now I think we're kind of in the middle of the best that we can do of a bad situation, which is like larger amounts will need KYC. And uh, do you still want to do it like on a non-custodial wallet? or do you want to do it on a custodial wallet where you have other types of risks? So just to close the thought, like we are working on bringing more partners so that we have more on ramps available. So
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna come up also like soon. I would say Q1, so that like for us it's important to give user options, and then user has kind of free market. Whatever they think is the best, they will use for their own purposes. And yeah, we are bringing more options as well.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, that seems like a good place to wrap this whole thing up. Obviously, follow THORWallet Dex on Twitter, and then crypto_XZ, and anywhere else you want to send people.
Yeah, if they have some more questions, they want to learn more, you can go to our official website. It's THORWallet.org, and they can find more information about what we're doing, about the card. And most of our information is always first posted on Twitter. So, follow us on Twitter to have the latest news.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, thanks very much for being on. This was a great stream, and everyone else, thanks for watching. Hit the like button and share this all over the place whenever you see it. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, and bye bye, guys.
Thank you.